Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of The Life of a Makeup Artist. Today, as we kick off 2020, oh my gosh, I'm really saying that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the last decade. We have quite a few new listeners, and thank you for that. And I wanted to share how life has changed for me as an artist and a little bit more of my journey thus far. I mean, honestly, as much as I do these podcasts for you guys, it's so amazing how I'll be able to go back and listen to where I was in that time in my life. So I'll be able to be like, Siri, play episodes from January 2020. Well, maybe not Siri because she don't listen. Now, can I tell you guys one of the weirdest questions for me as a makeup artist? I am always asked, and most makeup artists would be asked this question, but it's how long have you been doing makeup? And in my mind, I'm talking to myself like, how long have I been doing makeup? Now, you see, when I started my journey practicing and starting my YouTube channel, it was for fun. It was exploration. It was coming home after work, playing around with my weekends off. It was pure fun. And literally, anytime somebody asks me that, even today, I always say 7 years. I'm like, seven sounds like a good amount, so I'm just going to say 7 years. But it's actually been 7 years, almost 7 years, that I've been living in New York. So that makes no sense. So I have been doing makeup for maybe a year and a half before moving to New York. So we're coming up on like 8.5 years. I mean, I literally have no anniversary. I have no idea like what was the exact time. Like maybe I have to do a deep dive in my photo albums to really figure it out. Like I have no idea. Now, nevertheless, during these last 10 years, it goes to show how you can make a decision to change your life, and you could be living completely different lives in a span of 10 years. And it sounds like a long time, and it is a long time, but it really does not feel like it at all. So I made the decision to really take my love for makeup and turn it into a career. It's funny that you can make solid decisions for your life and life says, that's cute, but this is how it's actually gonna go. So back when I was living in Trinidad still, I made a decision to stay there. Now, I had a lot of interest in like makeup and beauty, and I'd play around with it. And like my cousins and other people in my life would be like, why don't you move back to New York? You can get your cosmetology license. You can, do something else. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to establish myself in Trinidad, and I'm going to just like do it here. And I was convinced. And obviously life had other plans. Now, during this time of growth, I had so many ideas, so many things that I wanted to do, but I really wasn't sure how it was going to happen, if it was going to happen, and frankly, if I had the courage to do it on my own. I always knew that I wanted to share my journey as an artist because I found that there were so many people being secretive with information for no reason. So I gave myself a platform. And can I say how many people have told me, oh my God, I listened to your podcast. And, especially in times where I was not expecting that. And, I'm so grateful. And I obviously am so grateful as well for the guests because they are also being vulnerable and candid with their own journeys because it's not easy. We're all coming from different walks of life. And, we have our trials, our tribulations, but we also have our successes, our, wins, and we just want to, share it with people who understand. And that's why I'm so grateful for this community and the listeners, because you listen to this because you can relate to it. And I am so happy to see that this is the way that this idea that I've had for such a long time is evolving. And another thing I wanted to touch on is a little story time. So I don't know if it was the first, I think it was my first Paris Fashion Week actually. I think it was my first. So I planned to go to Fashion Week, whatever, and I was supposed to go with like a old friend of mine, and I was friends with these makeup artists on Instagram, not Instagram, Facebook. And I was going with this friend. The friend like flaked on me or whatever. It's all good. I'm such a planner Capricorn, so obviously I'm the one that booked the Airbnb. I'm the one that like I had it all. I had it all together. I had it written down. I had my shit in a row. I'm not always like that, but I have my stuff together. And then my friend couldn't make it anymore. So now I'm like, I have this Airbnb and I'm like, I don't know anybody else. Like, I'm like, I think it was my first year out of Mac or like right before I left Mac, I can't remember, in 2017. I can't remember. This has to be 2016 because that's when I left. I think it was the following year. So it was my first year out of Mac. Yes, that's what it was. So, I ended up linking up with two friends. Well, they were my Facebook friends. And I don't know if they're listening to this, but it's Laramie and Caitlin, who are friends of mine now. And it's so funny how like just life unfolds. And so you'll figure out why I'm telling you all of this. So they ended up staying at my place. They were looking for a place, whatever. We hit it off. It was fine, cool, whatever. And during Fashion Week, like you can stay with people, but not necessarily like have a friendship with them after that. It's just like, oh, I stay with this person and that's it. But Laramie was doing this thing and I didn't know she was doing this thing until like we started to talk about it. So Laramie was volunteering and like having events around New York City, like helping different homes and doing like putting together teams for like hair and makeup and nails, like whatever we could do just to give back to these like different homes around the city. And while I was in Trinidad, there was a thing that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to like have a charity. I want to have this big thing. And I had this written down. I'm like, how am I gonna have my own charity? Like, you think of things. And, I have these ideas for like, I was super young. So I'm just like, okay, like, how am I going to do this? Not to say like, if you're young, you can't do it. But it's just like, you write all these things down. And I was just like, how am I going to do this? And then it just popped into my head one day that, oh, you can like, I was like, I can help you. You know what I mean? And eventually, like, we came together and we have a program. We're working on getting everything like, official. It's called Artists Making a Difference. And I think that's kind of along the lines of what I had written down, like, in the beginning of my journey. And I must say that stems from like my grandmother, rest in peace. She raised me and my sister. We lived in Trinidad and my parents were in New York. And we used to, in Trinidad, they call it barrel children. So like, you send these barrels full of stuff. So we always have like stuff. And it wasn't ridiculous, excuse me. But, we had excess. So my grandmother will always make sure that we gave things away. Like she's like, you're not wearing this, give this away. So it was ingrained in me to like give back. And, I always feel like no matter how you can give back, I always tell people, do what you can, what you have. And, I never saw this idea come into fruition in this way. Like it had to happen where, oh, I booked my Airbnb and somebody like cancel on me and I end up meeting this person because like our path, like you're a makeup artist, you see each other backstage, but like sometimes your path you don't really connect with some people. It just doesn't happen. And in 2019, I have to get like the final count, but we probably did like 6 or more events, and we've like, helped out different artists, and like it's, and we do these things not for like, oh, look at me, can you give me a gold star? It's just like, after a while, like I remember when it was like me just getting one MAC eyeshadow, it was just like, oh my God, like I cannot believe this. I would save my money to like get certain things. And it's not just about the product or whatever, but it's like giving people an opportunity. Like some people just want to practice makeup. And we're able to like help out different homes in New York, like Street Work and WPA, Women's Prison Association, and some other organizations. And the best part about it is that I get to do it with a friend, and then everybody who's a part of it is so enthusiastic, like they want to do this, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So I have to say, if any of the volunteers are listening, it's so amazing to like have people come together, and like I feel like that is ties into what this podcast is all about. It's like the life of a makeup artist is like, yes, we're in glam and we're backstage and we're doing this and we're starting businesses, but like we're also stopping to like give back. And like I have friends who are busy, they don't have time sometimes to come in and actually volunteer, but they would like send tons of product, tons of things that they can give away. I've had friends like send me like bags and different things, and it's just like it's so appreciated. And it's so appreciated because we have brands now, like we haven't really, like when we first started doing it, it was very grassroots. It was like, I'm gonna just ask my friends who I know are doing like all these cool things, who are backstage, and I'm just gonna ask them, and we would get so much stuff. We'd be like, oh my God, I don't want this stuff in my house, it's too much stuff. Like not like annoyed, but like also like kind of, because it's like so much stuff, but we're grateful because we get to give those things back. And people like Refinery 29 and Diva Curl and all these brands that like are so generous to us, so freaking grateful. So if you're listening to this podcast, I don't think I've really like spoken about artists making a difference at all, but just to like touch on all that's going on as we get into 2020. If anybody listening to this podcast are in the New York area and want to volunteer, let us know. And if you can't volunteer and you just want to like send product or whatever it is, you can hit up myself or Laramie Glenn. My email is it could be found easily, or you can go to the Life of a Makeup Artist website. We have an email and a form on there, and you could always do it that way. But I just wanted to touch on this because it's just like, in this 10 years, like even though what we're doing is, to us, it's like small, but we're like making a huge difference in people's lives. You know what I mean? Like we come in, we're doing barbering and we're doing different things, and there are other groups obviously that does this, but it's just like showing groups of people who usually feel like people don't care, and show them that, hey, we actually care. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and actually one of the groups that we helped, they had a fashion show with Calvin Klein, which was a big deal. And they got to make their own outfits, and like that day we had a lot of cancellations because things happen. Like we're not mad about it, but I was hands on. Like it was just four of us, and we made that thing happen. And they were so happy, and that was such a moment for me. Just because it was like all these artists didn't complain. Nobody was like, they're like, yo, we're gonna get this done, and we got it done. So I say all this to say that, in your, wherever you're at right now, you might have an idea, you might want to start a company, you might want to do something, and you're just like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Like, you don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. You just have to, yes, put in the work and plant seeds, but like things come to fruition as it should. You know what I mean? And then let's talk a little bit about clapping for yourself. Like clap for your damn self. Like clap for your damn self. Because I have so many friends, so many colleagues that have been killing it backstage, on TV networks, on all different types of projects, starting companies. And I am just like, woo, like you are cute and you are doing it, boo. And I have to remind myself as well as I remind you guys to clap for yourself, because in 2020, I know me, I know myself. Like, I'm writing down all these goals in the world. I'm like, okay, this is when we want to get done. This is my first quarter. This is my second quarter, girl. But, sometimes you don't really stop and say, wow, like, wow, you are doing, you're doing okay, girl. You know what I mean? And obviously, we all want to get somewhere else, and we always feel like, it's like what's that book? Who Moved My Cheese? It's like you're always chasing something. And I feel like, especially in this career, it's just like, you do this major project or you do this major job, you go on set and somebody's like, oh, so when is your next project? Or what's, like, people ask, like, somebody asked me this the other day, like, what's the biggest thing you have? And I'm just like I literally, it's like January, you know what I mean? Like, granted, that doesn't mean anything, but I'm just like, well, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, we're always in a state of what's next. Like, they say, like, you're not good as you're good as your last job. And I'm just like, oh my Lord, can we not? Thank you very much. I mean, I get it, but then also that puts us in a state of like, oh, well, what am I going to do next? And it's just like, let's clap for ourselves. We actually woke up today. We drank some water and we dressed ourselves. Like, can we just clap for that? I am proud of you. I am proud of you, and I'm proud of myself. And it's not easy. It's not easy being a creative, because we have these imaginary, like this imaginary tent pole that we have to continue to, like, reach. And it's just like, oh my God, like, let's just take a break and let's just, like, have our own timelines. Like, you don't have to be in a rush for anything at all. And in conclusion of the reflections of the last decade, I wanted to touch on, now we've spoken about how you can have plans and life is like, that's cute, but actually, we spoke about how the natural progression of your plans and things, happen as they should. And then we also spoke about clapping for ourselves. Now, I wanted to also talk about not having the decisions or opinions of other people affect us too much. I think that when you're in this business, or, in any part of life, sometimes you feel victim to other people. Like, if I do this, they might think this. If I do whatever, they might say whatever. And it's just like, but who cares? Who actually cares? And I'm saying this so confidently and laughing now, but I have had this happen to me, and I'm not in a space where I'm a very, like, positive person. And, I like to, my mantras are like, I'm always at the right place at the right time. Things happen as they should. So I'm never like, if I did this, if I listen to myself, honey. I'm just not like that. I'm not that person, but I'm just like, I look back sometimes, and I'm just like, I should have just did what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because, like, if you have an idea, something that is like, oh, I really want to do this, I believe in this, do it, because this industry is going to change. Things are going to change, and it's like, yes, you have to change with it, blah, blah, blah. But, like, how about you just do you? How about you just believe in yourself, believe in your juice, and let's roll with that. Let's roll with that. And being a makeup artist, you are, you're interacting with real people, with real lives and real emotions, and you just don't want to feel, especially, like, people come to you. We're therapists sometimes. People are coming to us and telling us stories, and you want to show up as your full, authentic self. So, you want to be as real as possible, especially, like, even when you're talking to whatever, anybody on set, you're talking to somebody at a brand, you're never talking to a brand. I don't ever see it as like you're talking to a brand or celebrity artist or influencer. You're talking to a person who has been through life, and it's so important for us to remember that we have to show up authentically for not only for ourselves but for other people, because you just don't know who's looking at you. You might honestly think like you're a mess or like you don't have it together, but there is somebody like looking at you and like, oh my, like might not even tell you anything at all ever, but this person might be looking at you and so inspired, and like in years to come, are you gonna be like, oh well, I didn't know this person was looking at me, like I would have done this if I, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you just don't know, you're not realizing who you're inspiring, even if it's in the smallest things. So be bold and just do what you want to do, you know what I mean? Because you just don't know who you might inspire, you don't know whose life you might change, you don't know if you might change your own life. How about that? So as we go into 2020, I hope you guys enjoy all that this podcast has to offer. We're going to have even more amazing guests, and I'm so excited. And some of you may already know them, and some I would be honored to introduce you to. We're going to be debunking beauty myths, covering topics like mental health, makeup, money, education, and I want an ultimate goal to be inspired, to be educated, and to be elevated. And I want to thank you so much for listening. And don't forget that The Life of a Makeup Artist is also on YouTube. We have our Life of a Makeup Artist original videos. And if you're ever looking for more, you've binge listened to all our episodes, you can go on to the YouTube page. And of course, follow us at The Life of a Makeup Artist. You will see the work of tons of artists all around the world for inspiration, and you might see your work on there as well. Don't forget, join our Facebook page at The Life of a Makeup Artist, and I will see you guys in the next episode.